who is the co-founder of videosocials.net and of videointerviewpodcast.com. In every episode, Mark interviews business and organizational thought leaders who share their stories of how they inspire others by making a difference. You can find this show on videosocials.net and YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and almost any podcast platform of your choosing.
Welcome. So glad to have you today, and I'm excited. My guest is Karen McMahon, and Karen is a certified relationship and divorce coach and the founder of Journey Beyond Divorce. Welcome, Karen. It's wonderful to have you.
Hi, Mark. Thanks so much for inviting me on.
Of course. And I am, the reason that I'm so excited to have you is that we drank the Kool-Aid a long time ago when it came to alternative divorce services and dispute services. We have many mediators and collaborative divorce professionals, et cetera, that we've worked with over the years. Many existing clients and members of Video Socials, as an example, and our VIP service. And so, why I'm excited for you is that you're the first divorce coach that I've ever actually worked with, and so I'm delighted to get to know you. You were referred by Andrea Vaca, which she's a mediator, a divorce mediator, and collaborative attorney in Manhattan, who we worked with for years, and is just a fantastic human being. So, when she recommended you, it's like, okay, with that recommendation, we've got to get you on. So,
well, thank you. And she is very good people.
She is. So, before we jump into, the interview itself, one of the questions that I ask, potential guests for the show is, who or what inspires you? And if I may, I just kind of wanted to read your response to that. And that is that you were inspired every day by ordinary people bravely navigating life's difficulties with their best and their worst, and a deep desire to learn and grow through it all. I am humbled to be invited to come alongside so many of them in this unpredictable human journey. And that really struck me because that's so much of who I am, especially in the realm of business people, right? Because as I mentioned to you before, my mission in life is I make a difference for those who make a difference in the world. And I happen to choose business, people that are making that difference through their businesses and organizations. But you've done it for people are focusing on people who are potentially going to be going through a divorce, are going through a divorce, or have been going through a divorce. But I'd really like to know, what's your story? How did you come to this? Because this isn't something that we think as children that when I grow up I want to be a coach and I want to help people get divorced, right? So how did it come about for you?
Yeah, well, it happened after my divorce, and I had a very long, high conflict divorce with very young children. And, I think for so many of us who do this kind of work, people look at us as if we were always where we are now. And, I like to say I was a hot mess. I was as messy as the messiest person out there. I was unconscious. I was reactive. I had my own trauma, and I had my own baggage that I brought to the table. And I attracted somebody who equally had his own issues and disorders. And so I was not a young puppy. I was 34 when I got married. So my thought was like, what the heck is my problem? I'd been around the block. I had been living on my own since I was 19. How did I end up in such an unhealthy marriage? And the unhealthy marriage led to a high conflict divorce. And through that process, I think that many of us can either get bitter or better. And that's a choice that we make.
Yeah.
And I chose to do my best, which was not pretty at times, to go through my divorce with grace and dignity. And when I came out the other side, Mark, I felt like I was such a new and improved version of myself that doing what I was doing for a career no longer worked. It fell flat. And I just felt like there has to be something more meaningful and purposeful for me to do in the world, given the hell I just walked through and emerged from in a better place.
Absolutely fantastic. And as is the case for so many of us that do try to help people, is we try to help people through what we've been through ourselves. So
exactly.
Thank you for taking it on, and thank you for not hiding, because what I'm talking about there is that so many of us that are inspired to do great work and they're inspired to make a difference in people's lives, end up being a little self-conscious and being and really kind of expect, I built myself as a better mousetrap. I expect the world to be the best path to my door, right? You have not done that. You are out there on social media. I'm not going to go through all of the links, but I'm going to give an overview, because all of the links for all of the different social medias will be in association or in the excerpts or whatever for this podcast. So jbddivorcesupport.com. You're on LinkedIn at Karen McMahon. You're on YouTube at Journey Beyond Divorce. You're on Facebook at Journey Beyond Divorce. You're on TikTok at Journey Beyond Devo. It got truncated. You're on Instagram at Journey _Beyond _Divorce. And you have your own podcast, which is available on any of the podcast platforms. It's the Journey Beyond Divorce podcast. And you do have a program that we can talk about a little bit later, but it is a relationship health quiz, which I think is brilliant. And that's available on your jbddivorcesupport.com website. And all of that being said, there is so much out there. And as I said, we've been in this world and supporting and engaging with and enhancing the reach of those who are mediators and collaborative professionals and arbitrators, et cetera, et cetera. Basically anything not court related. And we do have a number of really amazing, wonderful divorce attorneys as clients as well, because they are out there. But there's so much that's out of one's control when they're facing a divorce. And so how do you help your clients not to feel powerless in that process?
Yeah, it's the best question to start with, because we all do. It's scary. It's overwhelming. The court's out of your control. Your attorney is out of your control. Your soon-to-be ex is out of your control. And when you're focused on everything that you have no agency to change or control, it makes sense that on top of all of the upset and trauma that led you down this path, one can really get caught up in, I'm going to say, an emotional tsunami of fear and uncertainty, maybe shame, maybe anger, maybe guilt. And so how do you feel something other than powerless? And our guidance and what we work with clients from the very beginning is, when you look in the mirror, you're looking at the one thing you can control. And so as you go through this incredibly difficult process, my favorite saying is, every upset is a set for personal work. And so you're going to get triggered constantly, daily, for months, if not years. Let's use it to look at, what's my trigger? What's my perspective? How am I reacting? Is it serving me? Am I supporting my kids this way? And when people begin to take every opportunity to say, okay, am I keeping my side of the street clean? Am I doing the right thing? Is every thought and action of mine moving me closer to what I desire or further away, is really the bottom line question. Then they end up living in a place where they can feel more and more empowered, because they find their voice, they build their confidence, they develop clarity all around focusing on their part and what's going on.
Absolutely fantastic. And I think, as much as anything, as coaches, don't we just help people see a different perspective? Because we we can get trapped into that it is this way. I have no control over it, and therefore, I'm just going to. I would call it a morass. You call it, a tsunami, but it's, it's wading through molasses either way around, and the molasses is full of sharks, and they're taking bites, and it's so much of it for me as someone who's just helping to see from a different perspective, especially a broader perspective, because again, with so many people that we've worked with that are in mediation specifically, it's difficult when you're dealing with all of that to even see the other the other person's going through the same thing. It's just different. It's just a different perspective, right? So,
yeah. Absolutely. And I think that we really encourage, there's so much judgment in divorce, what's right, what's wrong, who's good, who's bad, this kind of a thing. And it's like, when you replace your judgment, and we could do this in business too, as a business owner, it's like, it's not going my way. It's got you all of the complaints, all the judgments. When you replace that with curiosity, you expand perspective, because it's like, well, what's going on? Why did he behave that way? What else can I do in this situation? And so when we bring inquiry and curiosity to the table, and I think I could say that as a business owner, when I get out of my own way and I start acting more like a scientist than somebody who, I'm the creator of the world and it should go my way, it expands perspective.
more the explorer and the and willing to experiment, rather than it's got to be this way or it's not going to work, right? So
and the same thing works with divorce. Be curious, expand your perspective. It's the best way to go through life.
Awesome. Now, another interesting thing about you is I think you focus on coaching men. I don't know if you do that exclusively over coaching women, or if it's just more.
It is not exclusive. The vast majority of divorce coaches out there are women coaching women. And I actually, in my early days, I was thinking about doing the same thing. And I had a coach who said, well, aren't they married to men? Why are you ditching half of the population? And so right from the get-go, our doors were open to men and women. And we coach about 30% of our clientele is men. And it's different. And it's somebody needs to be out there supporting them. And so we really enjoy supporting those who come to us to do their best and be their best version. And it's very different. I think that for a number of different reasons, working with men, there's a different approach. And I think that their concerns are different as well. And I'll say that we've niched recently. So we're not just doing divorce, we're really concentrating on that complicated, complex, high conflict divorce. And so working with men, they have different concerns. Somebody who's coming out of a high conflict marriage might be professionally very solid, but they've really taken on that division of labor. And so they haven't been as active of a parent. And so they could feel very angry, frustrated, scared that they're going to be shut out of their kids when they go to court because, they haven't been the primary parent. And then the mom could be like, you never did this, this, and this, and therefore you should only get a small percentage of time. So that's a very big concern for men, whereas more the finances tend to be the bigger front and center concern for our female clients. And I don't like to stereotype, but for the purpose of just talking about the difference, I'm going to do that today. And so that's one of them. The other one that I think is interesting is with our high conflict, our female clients have often been male and female clients are both traumatized by the conflict in the marriage and the other person. However, the male clients tend to be more concerned about the well-being of the spouse that they're leaving, and even more so the well-being of their children while they're with mom. And so there's this fear of, I'm not going to see enough of my kids, and then fear of, I'm not going to be able to protect them from maybe the disordered or high conflict behavior of the other parent. And then you layer that with, I'm a corporate executive, I run my own business, I'm in upper management. And so the way you negotiate in the boardroom is not the way to negotiate in the bedroom. And so that's another piece of how we work with men and help them to see that she may be reacting to you, not because what you're asking for or desiring is incorrect, but because of the approach that you're taking to communicate with her.
There's a dissertation in there somewhere. I mean, I've just, as a guy, I've never been divorced, hopefully never will be, married fairly young, and we're coming up on 40 years. So
God bless.
God bless. But when my parents got divorced, I mean, one of the things that stood out for me was, my mom said that when my father asked for a divorce, he said, but I feel responsible for you. And I was like, that's ridiculous. If you felt responsible, you wouldn't divorce. Well, this is the child mind, look at this. But I do know that it's for many of us guys, it's built in to be protectors. And so, especially for our children, but even for our spouse, I mean, we've been together for however long we've been together. And I can imagine that it would be really anxiety producing to look at severing that. Even if the physical relationship or the emotional relationship isn't working and we know that we're going to get divorced, you've got somebody that's been under your protection in your own mind and from your perspective for a long time, that would be a difficult thing to.
What's interesting about that, Mark, because it makes so much sense. And yet when you're a husband who has been verbally and emotionally abused, and you're still concerned with her well-being over yours,
Mm-hmm.
that's where all of that trauma informed, that dysfunction, that disordered behavior comes in, where it's like you might look like a nice guy to the outside world, but you're not valuing yourself. And so we really help them begin to see things from that broader perspective. And I think the other thing I would say is, with men, my dad was a New York City police officer, 6'2", barrel-chested. Everyone wanted Joe McMahon backing him up when they broke into an apartment. He was in a physically, verbally, emotionally abusive relationship. The level of shame, right? Because it's like, no, like, not only am I dealing with this behind closed doors, but I don't want anyone to know, and what's wrong with me. And it's just, I love working with these individuals because they deeply need the kind of non-judgmental support and guidance that we can afford. And it's equally as heartbreaking as the women who are in that situation, different but the same.
So fascinating, and thank you for taking it on. Again, it says, I've often said, and I know that many of our mediators have said, consider a divorce coach. Get a mental health professional if you need a mental health professional, but get it. If that's not enough, or that's not necessarily appropriate, and just the ability to have the perspective of a coach that understands all this is amazing. And so you've done a number of podcasts, you've done a number of videos, you've done a number of interviews, and we are self-sponsored, and that's kind of what we do. We help people that are trying to get out there, that have a message, that have a difference that they want to make, a desire to help others. And so all of our services are based around supporting people doing that. So we have videosocials.net, and that's a situation where it's a club that professionals join, and we get together in small groups, 5 to 10 typically, and we take turns recording our 2 or 3 minute videos that we're putting out on YouTube and our websites, et cetera, et cetera. And we learn by doing. It's an experiential program. And its biggest benefit is that you're not sitting alone talking to this inanimate object called a camera and trying to have a conversation with an audience that you're pretending is there. We are each other's audience, and we give each other support, encouragement, feedback, and tips and ideas for how to improve for next time around. So there are no critiques, but there is valuable feedback that comes out of it. And the friendships and the networking and all of that, which are basically ancillary to actually getting it done, are just things that our members are constantly reminding us of. So much value and so much of actually getting it done. Stop procrastinating and stop sitting there being nervous about being on camera because you're just not used to doing it. And so that's videosocials.net. And then if you are looking at doing things like podcasts and interview podcasts specifically, we have the entire infrastructure built, because there is, as you know, a lot of work, a lot of scheduling, there's a lot that goes into producing an interview podcast, especially a video interview podcast. So that is videointerviewpodcast.com. So, and on the Video Social side, we'd love to have you as a guest. There's no cost, there's no obligation. It's videosocials.net. Just click on the guest tab at the top of the screen. We'd love to meet you, and it's a judgment-free zone. And Karen, so I already know the answer to this question, just because I've done the research on you. I've seen all of what you have available online, but there are so many divorce resources for people. And it can be overwhelming just because there are so many different options and so many different ways that some can help and some may not be so helpful in the divorce arena. But how has your journey beyond divorce grown, and what makes you the go-to leader in this field?
Yeah, thank you so much for asking. And I think, like, when I started back in 2010, there was a fraction of the information out there. And there were a fraction of divorce coaches. People would say, "You're a divorce what? Like, what the heck is that?" Right. And so we started early. We began podcasting in 2016. So I think we've got over 250 episodes. And so the question becomes, what are you looking for? Like, there are some really good divorce sites and podcasts out there. And part of it is, what are you looking for? For me, my message, and I say it right from my introduction in my podcast and on my homepage, is our desires to help people grow through their divorce, to use the pain of divorce to fuel a transformation so that you're not just a better parent, all of your relationships are better. Your future love life has more possibility. And every crisis that you face, and there will be crises, that you walk away with such a robust toolbox for how to approach any challenge. Divorce is one of the most devastating transitions. If you get through that, you walk away with a deep toolbox, you're in really good shape. And so we have over 500 articles, over 250 podcasts. And the thing that I think makes us a little different, especially in the podcasting world, is the way my mind works is I can't just talk about how to find an attorney. If I'm doing that what comes afterwards is, what do you need to know about your finances and how do you make it child-centered? And so all of my podcasts are in series. And so I have a divorce roadmap series, and I have a high conflict series, and I have a high net worth series, and I have a life after divorce series, so that wherever you are, there's an entire curriculum of shows that can just keep informing you of things that are helpful. And the other thing is, there's a lot of people out there. I've become more and more tuned into what I believe is like the cream of the crop experts. And so I'm always looking for experts that are concise, articulate, experienced, have a really valuable message and can deliver it, because some people are brilliant, but they're not so great on camera. And so that's not helpful. And so I've spoken to virtually every financial, mental health, child-centered expert that there is, all the different court-appointed people, and it would cost thousands of dollars to get that kind of consultation one-on-one, and our listeners can come and listen, put together their questions, go to their attorney, and be really well-informed and prepared. And education is power, information is power. So that's what we love to do.
I've recently recorded a video that said, if you want your content to land, you want to get people's attention, you want to help people realize that they are a good prospect for your business, your services, et cetera, make sure that your content stands on its own as a help. In other words, make sure that the content is in and of itself the difference that you want to make through the business that you created. So this is why I know that you're a leader in the field, because that is what your content is. And I congratulate you for it and thank you for it, because that content has durability. And it's an amazing reach. But speaking about reach, do you have a geographical area that you focus on, or are you more nationwide? What is your?
So Journey Beyond Divorce is made up of 6 divorce coaches, coast to coast. So I've got someone in LA, someone in some other part of California, 1 or 2 in the middle of the country. We've got someone who just left New Orleans, someone in Atlanta, someone in New Jersey. I'm in New York. But we serve, I would like to say we serve the English-speaking world. So podcasting is amazing because people can listen from anywhere. So we are primarily coast to coast, but we often work with people in Canada and English-speaking people in other parts of the world.
Fantastic. So, well, and that content's obviously, if it's on the internet, it's available globally. So kudos. And we didn't think about this or talk about this at all, but what is, when you say there's 6 of you, so is this a partnership? Is this an affiliation? What is, are you trained together? Do you, how does that look? I hate to put you on the spot, but
no, not at all.
So
So early on in my career, one of the things that, as you would know, makes a good business owner, whatever you're doing, is if you actually enjoy building your business, right? So if someone just wants to coach or just wants to, be a therapist or whatever, you need to enjoy building your business. And so early on, I ended up with more leads than I could handle. And I thought, oh, it's very lonely being a solopreneur. Let me start building a team, and that way I can serve more people and I can be a leader within the team. And so all of our coaches went through the same coaching institute. That's an absolute must for me. And I have a business partner, and everyone else are coaches who, almost all of them, coach on other expertise as well, but they've gone through divorce, they enjoy the team, and so they come and they all coach our clients as well. And so it's really a beautiful, fluid, whatever fits. If you want X number of clients, if you want to build that or do less, like, each coach has their ability to create what works for them. And our listeners and our followers have this wide variety. And the other thing is, I left my divorce $60,000 in debt. That was my big settlement. So I have a real heart for people who emerge or going through it really scarce on money. And so we have a sliding scale. So from our youngest coach to me, there's quite a range. And then we have our online program, so people have the ability to find something that fits their wallet so that they can, and of course, all the free resources so that they can get the support that they need, regardless of their financial situation.
Absolutely awesome. And then I think I want to give you one more question, and then we'll wrap up today, because we could go on and on and on. And that question is, when should somebody contact you guys? Is this when they're thinking about getting a divorce? Is it helpful to, if they're not even sure how to bring it up with their spouse that they want a divorce? Should it be after they realize, look, this is more conflict, this is more negativity, this is overwhelming, I got to get a coach? Should they wait to that point? Should it be after? Is there a bad time to reach you, and what's the best time to reach out?
Yeah, I don't know that there's a bad time, because people come to that when they do. But I will say that we like to work with people in the should I mend or should I end? So when I have someone who comes to me who says, I'm just not quite sure, number one, the best place for you to learn about yourself is with the person you've been with. And so unless it's physically abusive, we really encourage people, don't move quickly. Let's work on mending, even if the mending is just noticing your own behavior and starting to work on your own triggers and reactivity. Because as you begin to change, it's going to become crystal clear. Either he or she is going to move closer and want to mend, or it's going to become really clear that this is not going to work out, in which case you've already got some work under your belt. You have a trust in us because we've supported you. And now we can help you enter this foreign world of divorce with a vocabulary you don't know, players you don't even know who they are or what they're supposed to do. And we can really come alongside you through the entire process. You'll save money, you will have less misery, and you will most likely walk away with a better settlement. So the earlier, the better would be the short answer.
Right. And so, but along with that is that there really isn't a bad spot. I mean, if they're just finding you now and they're at the tail end or even post divorce,
absolutely,
I can only imagine that you guys could be a tremendous resource and help.
Yeah, we take when people show up, it's like, okay, now you're ready, right? Like when the student is ready, the teacher will come type thing. So it's like, okay, you're here now. Doesn't matter, because then people could be like, oh, I should have, and self-condemnation. It's like, no, let's not go there. You're here now. I like to say the front windshield is much larger than the rear view mirror. Let's stay focused on that. That's where all the value is. And we go from there.
Absolutely awesome. Karen, what is the best way to reach out to you? Obviously, you've got tons of information that's online, that's free, that's helpful in and of itself. And so, folks, please do avail yourself if you're thinking about or going through a divorce, to at least avail yourself of that information. But if somebody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to do that?
Well, if somebody's really listening and thinking, God, I would love to have a conversation, the first call is on the house. You can go to rapidreliefcall.com and you can book your best time, and one of the coaches will get on the phone with you, and it might be me, and we'll see where you're at and how we can support you. And so I would say that, and if you're not sure about your relationship, go to jbddivorcesupport.com and you'll see our relationship health quiz. And that would be a really great place to start. It's 10 quick questions. It brings incredible clarity very quickly. Awesome.
Absolutely awesome. Well, I'm so glad to have had you on the show. I thank you so much for who you be in the world and what you choose to do and the difference that you make. And I think you're an example for many others, and we really appreciate having you on. And
well, thank you. If I could just comment on what you do, Mark, I was so afraid to go in front of the camera. I would rather crawl under a table than be, and my journey has been quite a long and arduous one to get to the point where this is really comfortable for me. And so I love what you do. And I would say that anyone who's listening, if you're hiding and playing small, reach out, because the services that you described are priceless. They're getting in front of the camera and in front of the microphone is what's going to allow the world to know you exist. And so thank you for doing what you do, because it's so important.
Well, thank you so much, Karen. And that's why we do it, because, there are so many people that really just want to help. They want to make a difference. Obviously, we need to make a living in the process, but it's my life's work. So I appreciate the acknowledgement of that. And again, what you've built is amazing. And I wish you nothing but continued success, because that success, the more successful that you are, the more people that you're helping. So really appreciate it. Thank you so much, Karen.
Thank you.
You've been listening to Inspiring Business with your host, Mark Bullock. Your positive comments, likes, and most importantly, your sharing of this show with others is greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe to the Inspiring Business Podcast on whatever platform you prefer. You can catch prior episodes on videosocials.net and on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, and all the major podcast platforms.